So, during the Pokemon Presents today, we were introduced to 5 brand new Pokemon, and they're definitely very interesting to say the least. I mean, Okidogi, Monkey Dory, these are just such silly but well appreciated pun names. But you might be wondering, well, what are the origins of these Pokemon? Well, today, the Prime Directive and I are here to tell you all about that.
Yeah, and happy Pokemon Day! Geez, Dex, you couldn't be a little bit more personable there with the viewers? It's not always all business all the time. We gotta be more human with these folks, and right now, you're the more human one here. Yes, though, we have a set of very interesting DLC chapters to look forward to with Scarlet and Violet, which was assumed to be the case, but now we know for sure that they are. We got the immediate introduction of Walking Wake, a Paradox form of Suicune, and Iron Leaves, which is, a Paradox form of Virizion, and that one's in Violet, by the way, the latter's in Scarlet. You probably could have guessed that, but, the fun has already gotten started, with new content, and it softens the blow that we have to wait so long to enjoy the DLC.
Well, that is cool and all, but as I mentioned, we've got even brand newer Pokemon to talk about, so I guess I'll just get us started here. In the Teal Mask, we'll be introduced to 4 of those 5 Pokemon, being Monkey Dory, Okidogi, Pheasantipede, and finally, Ogerpon. Now, very keen eyes on the internet immediately notice that they all came from the story of Momotaro, a folk tale about a boy who was born from a peach and befriended a dog, pheasant, and monkey in his quest to defeat a band of Oni that were harassing his village. So we clearly know who represents who here. But let's dive a little further into it. The names in English are pretty straightforward puns. Monkey Dory comes from monkey in the phrase hunky dory, Okidogi comes from dog in okidoki, and Pheasantipede comes from pheasant in serendipity. But their Japanese names pretty much follow the same route as well. Monkey Dory is Mashi Mashida, which comes from the common telephone greeting of Moshi Moshi, and Mashida, another name for a monkey. Okidogi is just Ine Inu, which takes the phrase Ine, meaning something like good, right? And Inu, the word for dog. And then finally, Pheasantipede in Japanese is Kichi Kigisu, a combination of Kichi, meaning fortune, and Kigisu being, you guessed it, pheasant.
I guess that would just leave Ogerpon to talk about from the group, and it doesn't really have a direct translation pun that we can tell you just yet for its Japanese name, but in the story of Momotaro, the animals and our Peach Boy do happen to go up against some ogres, so I think that at least seals the deal when it comes to its English name. It seems to be wearing some sort of mask, hence why this first part of the DLC is called the Teal Mask. And that makes me wonder if it wears it due to being convinced it's ugly looking, or something like that. Obviously, this is the legendary Pokemon of the situation, but it makes me wonder if we'll see some sort of misunderstanding of some kind, where Monkidori, Okidogi, and Pheasantipede believe that they need to once again protect the island from a creature of malice, but just turns out Ogerpon is really no ogre at all.
Yeah, I could definitely see Game Freak taking their own direction with this Momotaro legend. Although, it would be pretty cool if Ogerpon was actually evil and it was a decently challenging fight. It definitely feels like the first DLC will be way more story-oriented than the Isle of Armor, so I think that's a pretty good sign of a really fun expansion no matter what, in my opinion. Now, in terms of typings, I think it's really anyone's guess with these 4. I'm really just hoping that the trio don't share a typing, or just some combination of dark, psychic, ghost, and fighting. We've been getting a lot of those lately. But now we are going to move into Terapagos, the mysterious Pokemon in the Scarlet and Violet books that we've all been looking forward to seeing. I think I'll get the name stuff out of the way real quick, as I think the lore is far more deep with this guy. Clearly the name just comes from our terrestrial phenomenon and Galapagos, a region of the world very much known for its turtles. But now in comes the lore. Instead of Momotaro, we have our legend of Urashima Taro, a man that saves a turtle and is rewarded by getting to visit the Dragon Palace, or in some versions, Tokoyo no Kuni, the land of eternity.
Ah yes, of course, I was there! Allow me to finish the story. Urashima arrives at the Dragon Palace and meets the Dragon King's daughter, Princess Orihime, and from there they just hang out and have a cool time for 3 days. Urashima just sort of gets sick and has to go after a while, but the princess is kind of sad to hear about this. I would be too, but she's understanding, so she hands over a box. It's just covered in what I can only assume were jewels, or just beautifully painted rocks, probably jewels though, and she sends him on his way. So he gets back to his village, and it turns out like 300 years have passed. I mean, I've had my fair share of long days, but this is ridiculous. Everyone he cares about is dead. All he's got is this box, and people think of him as some kind of folk hero because he's just a dude that disappeared one day. He ends up opening up the box due to being freaked out over his situation, and poof! Some smoke comes out, and he turns into an old man. The princess's voice comes from the sea, and lets our boy Oroshima know the reason why she told him not to open the box is because it contained his old age. If he'd just listened to her, maybe he could have avoided such a fate, but my guy just had to lose his mind. Now, what were we talking about? That movie with Morgan Freeman? What's in the box? No. The turtle. That's right. Tell them more about the turtle, Dex.
Wow, I'm so sorry you had to see that happen to your friends, Prime. Anyways, so the turtle in that story is significant in the sense that it is what transported Urashima Taro to the locations that he ended up spending hundreds of years at. Now, different variations have the turtle transforming into the princess, shining with 5 different colors, but the most common theme is that it is being saved and the man is being rewarded for saving it. But I'd like to touch on that shining with 5 colors part from one of the variations. I don't think it'd be too crazy to think Game Freak changed that portion a bit to make it shine with not 5 colors, but 18 typings. Also, think about what was inside the box at the end of the story. It was Urashima's age, of course, but look at it from another perspective. It was the essence of time in that box, held in place. So, could it be that not only does Terapagos represent the turtle that needed to be saved, but also time itself? If it is in fact responsible for the terrestrial phenomenon, which is responsible for the time machine being able to exist in the first place, then perhaps the reason is because it has some sort of direct connection with, or somehow the controlling of time to some degree. But I guess that kind of thinking is really more like, what are they going to do with the story, instead of what the real world lore actually is. Now, as for the typing, I can easily see this just being a pure normal type that has the ability to just shift between all the different typings. Think the legend plate in Legends Arceus. However, the yokai this is based off of, the Minogame, are also known to have poisonous breath, so something like poison or water poison doesn't feel outside of the realm of possibility either. What do you think, Prime?
I agree with you entirely on its typing being normal and having some sort of ability that messes with that typing and possibly changes it up easily. I mean, in the Sword and Shield DLC, we ended up with a way to change our Pokemon into possible Gigantamax forms, if they actually had access to them to begin with. And so that's kind of a way to play into our new Turtle Friends gimmick, no? That game had mushrooms, maybe this guy can help us get easier access to shards. Part of things aside, though, I was kind of stuck on something we talked about just a few moments ago, that whole Dragon Palace thing. The concept of it has it being like a residency for the Dragon King, and kind of made me think about Lugia. Obviously, we just got this Suicune Paradox thing with Walking Wake, and it just sort of made me wonder, could we see Ho and Lugia in some way soon? That could seem really fitting thematically with the context and locations of our DLC, but after doing all that thinking about the past earlier, I just don't think I can elaborate much more right now about that feeling.
You know, that is a really interesting thought there, Prime. Perhaps we should investigate that this week. Boy, oh boy, there really is a lot to talk about here, and to think we didn't even go over the obvious connection Liko is seemingly going to have with Terapagos when she makes her debut in the anime later this year. All I know is that I'm pretty excited to get my hands on the DLC. I am definitely looking forward to the two being released so much closer together this time around, and I hope they have a sort of connection with each other plot-wise. I mean, it's fairly possible with these two mysterious faces being present in both parts. But that's a conversation for another day. But what do you all think? Do you like what Game Freak are doing here with the DLC so far, or do you think we need to wait and see a little bit more first? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. And with that being said, I am Dexter Taro.
And I'm a Prime relic of the past.
And we will see you all next time.